Most people meet Sun Tzu as a symbol of aggression, a master of domination, a philosopher of victory. His name gets quoted by executives chasing growth, athletes chasing trophies, and influencers chasing relevance, all treating the art of war like a handbook for winning at any cost. But that interpretation misses something critical, because when you strip away the slogans, the posters, and the motivational noise, a very different figure emerges. Sun Tzu was not obsessed with winning battles. He was obsessed with what battles cost after they were over. And that distinction changes everything. The common reading of Sun Tzu paints him as a thinker intoxicated by conflict, a strategist obsessed with outmaneuvering enemies through cleverness and force. But the art of war is strangely uninterested in heroism. It does not glorify sacrifice. It does not celebrate destruction. And it spends very little time describing battle itself. Instead, it returns again and again to warnings about delay, waste, overextension, and exhaustion. That's because Sun Tzu was not writing for generals chasing glory. He was writing for states on the brink of economic collapse. Sun Tzu lived during one of the most unstable periods in Chinese history, the late spring and autumn era, moving into the warring states period. Dozens of kingdoms, constant mobilization, endless campaigns. Armies were no longer small aristocratic forces clashing for honor. They were massive, permanent machines, and machines are expensive. Every campaign pulled farmers from fields. Every march consumed grain, faster than it could be grown. Every extended war hollowed out the labor force that supported the state. War had stopped being an event. It had become an economic condition. Sun Tzu recognized something few rulers were willing to admit. A state could win militarily and still lose everything that made victory meaningful. Because wars do not end when battles stop. They end when treasuries empty, when farms fail, when populations fracture under taxation and scarcity. In Sun Tzu's world, victory delayed was wealth destroyed, and destruction, once complete, could not be reversed with banners or speeches. This is why Sun Tzu's most famous line is so often misunderstood. The supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. This is not moral philosophy. It is cost accounting. No mobilization. No supply lines. No dead labor force. The cheapest war is the one that never happens. To Sun Tzu, diplomacy, intimidation, alliances, and psychological pressure were not secondary tactics. They were primary financial strategies. Sun Tzu treated information as the most valuable resource a state could possess. A single accurate report could prevent months of marching. A single insight could save a treasury from ruin. He understood something modern governments still struggle to admit. Information is cheaper than force, and smarter than force. What he called foreknowledge, we now call data, and misusing data to Sun Tzu was the same as misusing capital. Sun Tzu spends more time discussing supply lines than swordplay. Because logistics are not support systems, they are the strategy. Distance multiplies cost. Delay compounds loss. Disorganization bleeds resources invisibly. An army that looks strong on the battlefield may already be bankrupt behind the lines. And once the economy collapses, no tactical brilliance can save it. When Sun Tzu emphasizes speed, he is not advocating recklessness. He is minimizing exposure. Every day an army moves is another day it must be fed. Another day the treasury bleeds. Another day the state risks collapse. Speed reduces duration. Duration reduces cost. Victory delayed is money burned. Sun Tzu was not teaching rulers how to fight. He was teaching them how not to destroy themselves. His philosophy is not the philosophy of a warrior. It is the philosophy of a steward, someone responsible for maintaining solvency, stability, and endurance. Because power is not measured by how hard you strike. It is measured by how much you can afford to strike and still survive. Sun Tzu was not teaching rulers how to fight. He was teaching them how not to destroy themselves. His philosophy is not the philosophy of a warrior. It is the philosophy of a steward, someone responsible for maintaining solvency, stability, and endurance. Because power is not measured by how hard you strike. It is measured by how much you can afford to strike and still survive. History does not repeat loudly. It repeats quietly, through balance sheets, budgets, and broken systems. Sun Tzu understood what many still refuse to accept. The fastest way to lose power is to ignore its cost. And those who forget that lesson always pay for it later. If this gave you a new perspective, subscribe. History has the answers, and I'll show you where to look.